Welcome to the Freedom Club Podcast, where we strive to pull you out of your life of quiet desperation, out of your comfort zone of misery, and propel you into a life of freedom and fulfillment. And now, here's your host for this journey, international speaker and coach, and serial entrepreneur, Kurt Mercadante.
Happy Monday, everyone, and I hope you are making it Mindset Monday, in which you set yourself up for success, for freedom, for abundance. This week, I hope you all are doing well. Hope you had a weekend in which you were mentally and physically present with your family, your friends, and yes, yourself. This is the Freedom Club Podcast. I am your host, Kurt Mercadante. And something last week happened which entertained me greatly. I did a post about the fact that some people call bullshit on me when I tell them I set a limit of working 12 hours per week, and some people just don't believe it, and they try to call bullshit on me. And so I did a video on LinkedIn and Facebook, you may have seen it, in which I kind of went through my schedule and what I do and how I do it. And there was an interesting argument from someone who came in, and one of the things I had said in the video is I pointed out that I prioritize my relationships and that we should always prioritize our relationships. And I based that on a number of things that I'll discuss here in a second. But basically his point was, no, some of us don't need to, and basically accused me of trying to push my values on other people by simply saying that relationships should be the most important things in our lives. Then he went on to make some other interesting claims, got angry, whatever. But his argument was interesting. He pointed out, to help bolster his argument, he shared his own story that he made sure to point out that he was a high net worth individual and he had left it. Maybe he had sold out or something, I don't know, cashed out. But he missed it, so he went back in. And so that showed, that relationships shouldn't be important for everyone. And then he even used the example of Gandhi and Christ, apparently putting himself on the same plane as Jesus Christ. That, I guess the example he tried to show was that Christ chose work over his relationships. Now, I'm a student of the Bible. I happen to be Catholic. But a few things, right? Jesus Christ was the Son of Man, sent here to save the world. And apparently, this guy who was commenting on LinkedIn was putting his work on the same plane as Jesus Christ. I'll let that sit right there. But I would also argue that Christ would be in agreement about the importance of relationships. Not only our relationship with God, but our relationship with the people around us. Loving one another. I won't get too theological. I won't take this down the track, but just so you know that part of this guy's argument was that Christ chose work over relationships. So I'll let that sit there. Whether or not he was comparing his work here in his job to the work of Christ and even Gandhi, I'll leave that for you to decide. But the reason that I say relationships should be most important isn't because I'm attempting to push my values on you. Far from it. As people who've been through my coaching program know, a big part of my program is getting you to identify your core values, getting you to identify your core values. And as I've discussed here on this podcast many, many times, I've talked about the fact that work-life balance is BS, and that it's really about aligning the three facets of your life in a way that works for you, not in a way that works for Kurt Mercadante or anyone else, in a way that works for you. But that being said, relationships are so vitally important. The reason I say that is my personal experience bears that out. My experience with coaching people around the globe bears that out. 99.9% of the people who come to me who need help, it's because their work has taken over their lives and is endangering their relationships. It's also endangering their self-care and the amount they invest in themselves, but it's certainly endangering the amount they invest in their relationships. But also the data bears it out. Harvard University has undertaken, and it continues to go, what I believe is the longest running study of human fulfillment and happiness that's ever existed. It's called the Harvard Study of Adult Development. They started tracking 268 Harvard sophomores in 1938. They've continued to track them for like over 80 years. Now, when they started interviewing these men, or these Harvard sophomores, they said, well, I think what the key to happiness is going to be in my life is things like job title and pay and status and all this stuff. What they have found over 80 years is no, the most important thing wasn't the job titles. It wasn't the pay. It wasn't the status. It wasn't even health and fitness. It was relationships. Relationships made the difference. So you may be at a point in your life where you have your head down and you're focusing on work, and I get it. And that work may be super fulfilling, but in the long run, it's going to be relationships that are the key to fulfillment. Are there outliers? In this 80-year study, have there been outliers? Were there a few people who over the course of 80 years, maybe job, status, all that, they said was the key to their happiness? Yes, there's going to be outliers in any study. And by the way, I'm not sure. It may be possible that Harvard included Jesus Christ and Gandhi in this study. I doubt it. There's always going to be outliers. But the bottom line is that the data clearly shows that it's been relationships that have been the key to happiness and joy and fulfillment in people's lives. That's why I will argue to my last breath about the importance of relationships. That's not me trying to push my values on you. It's me trying to wake people up to understand that if they are in a life of quiet desperation, a comfort zone of misery because they put in their head down and they think that they have to be a prisoner to their job, whether that's a job they've built or a 9-to-5 corporate job in which they work, they've got to start prioritizing those relationships. Prioritizing those relationships is a big part of the freedom lifestyle. It's a huge part of the freedom lifestyle. And if you're listening to this and you're like, well, I'm not married and I'm not currently in a relationship, that's okay. Do you have friends? Do you have family? Do you have a dog? Do you have a pet? I don't know if any of you heard about the Blue Zones movement. You know, there's these zones that they have found in the world that have more octogenarians, apparently, than any other part of the world. I think like Loma Linda, California. I want to say parts of Sicily or Sardinia, California, Okinawa. There's a number of other places. One of the key factors that they have found in these blue zones, a key factor in longevity, is a sense of community and relationships, where people go out after dinner at night into the town square and they interact with one another. That is relationships. The importance of relationships is so clear. The data bears it out. History bears it out. Life bears it out. My personal experience bears it out. So again, that's not me trying to push my values on you. It's just clear that the evidence shows the importance of relationships. So if you find yourself feeling trapped, if you find yourself in that life of quiet desperation, look to the strength of your relationships. Are they as strong as they could be? If you're married or have a significant other, is your relationship excellent? Are you going on a minimum of 2 dates per month? And it's interesting when I say that, there's some people, and if you look at them, they're very happy, fulfilled people. They say, I go on a date every week. I go on 2 dates a week. That's awesome. But there's an equal amount of people who always come back to me and say, there was one guy in my Freedom Club community. I'll struggle to get 1 date a month in with my wife because we have young kids. I have 4 young kids. Excuses, excuses, excuses. You got to prioritize those relationships. And before I go today, I mentioned the Freedom Club community. I want to make a pitch. If you're looking to live the freedom lifestyle, whether or not you're in a corporate 9-to-5 and you may even like that job, or you own your own business, but you feel like you don't have that overall sense of freedom and fulfillment that you deserve and desire, I urge you to come to Facebook right now. Search for the Freedom Club Community. You'll see my ugly mug there when you type it up. Apply to join. We'd love to have you in the community. It's growing every single day. We have people around the globe, everyone committed. Listen, it's people helping people. And if there's any jerks in there haven't been, we kick them out. So it's a safe community for you to come in and grow with other people who are looking to live the freedom lifestyle as well. I would love to have you as a part of the Freedom Club community. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of today, Monday, or whatever day you're listening to this podcast. And I wish you a week filled with freedom and abundance. And I urge you, I challenge you, start prioritizing those relationships starting right now. They are of the utmost importance. This has been the Freedom Club Podcast. I am your host, Kurt Mercadante. We'll talk to you Wednesday.